Hello, SpeedGaming 3. We have a upper bracket race between Bread-kun and Gammachuu. This is a game 1 between them, and it is one of the most far along races in the tournament. So this one will be they'll be waiting for their opponents. We don't know yet who they will face when they finish this, but I'm sure it will be a very good race. Bread-kun and Gammachuu are both experienced glitch racers. Gamma, of course, you probably know from all sorts of modes. He has basically been a bit of a renaissance man in the rando community, whereas Bread-kun came from the Ocarina of Time community, playing no logic in that game, which is even more impressive than no logic in this game. And then joining the Mentor tournament and the no logic tournament at the same time when that was run last year. Actually, that might have been 3 years ago. Time flies. We've had 2 no logic tournaments. And we're off. 2 different starts already. Ice Rod and Sanctuary. 10 arrows in Link's house. And a map check. All crystals in the light world. Hopefully we can see some spicy Dark World pendants that let us skip items. None of that pendant thieves nonsense. We don't want to see that. Bread-kun, starting out with Sahasrarla's Closet, a popular opener in HMG. And gets the other rod. The fire rod in Saha's Closet will complement the ice rod in Sanctuary very nicely. A little easier for Bread to get both rods than for Gamma at this moment. Sometimes people put off Sanctuary for a while. Nice early sword. Love to see a Sphere 1 sword. And full magic. Actually, that's really nice. Having a magic bar to go with your rod in the opener is nice. It can help you deal with things like the switches in Hera and mini Boldorms and so on. I see a shovel on Lumberjack. That's probably last location. Bread is already going to Kakariko Village. He has 70 rupees and 3 bombs, which is the minimum you want for a cat. However, a lot of glitch players will put off Kakariko in hopes of finding things like the bottle and the glove that help them do the Cat Desert plays in a more completionist way. But of course, there's always a bottle in Kakariko. So Bread has a bottle to check Sick Kid. Gammachuu sees the lamp on the top of Spectacle Rock and will pick it up at the end of Hera. It's not needed for this dungeon, so there's no reason to go out of his way for it at the moment. Well, I say it's not needed. We pretend Hera Basement doesn't exist in this mode. We would much rather spend that key in Swamp Palace, because bringing a key into Swamp Palace is one of the tenets of playing HMG. Logic expects you to use a Meyer key, but if you have a Hera key, that's way more convenient. Gamma finds 1 item in the front of Hera and no keys, which means that Tower of Hera is locked behind access to Misery Mire and its big key at the very least, and then Swamp Palace usually locked behind all 3 small keys. Gamma checks the tablet and finds powder on the tablet. If he can find another sword, he may be able to get powder before going to Kakariko Village, which is one of the things you want to check early, but it is not actually in logic to check it that early. Oh no, Bread misses the bomb. He has to actually buy a bomb to do Chicken Hut now. That's sad. Usually you at least find some bombs in between the well and Blind Hideout, but I guess none of them were found. It's not a huge time loss, it's just kind of funny. That's already 2 fetch quests that were spotted. Bread, 3rd try chicken hut bomb. You know, it's not easy to do chicken hut on the 1st try, but you know, if you practice enough, you can do it. Gammachuu is not taking the traditional Houlihan route. He is actually just going to Kakariko as well. He has a bottle, which gives him a sense of comfort. Going into Kak, at least he knows that he can check Sick Kid. Of course, there's also a bottle in here, but he doesn't know that. He's also going in here with only 3 bombs. He needs to get Chicken Hut 1st try if he wants to do it in 1 trip. Also, it seems like not much was found in Kakariko besides the flippers. And Bread, still missing that lost wood sword. I'm sure he'll get it on the way up the mountain, but he might miss it for a while. He has a fire source to do desert with at least. But one thing he is lacking is a reliable weapon. He has a red potion and both rods, but he'll use the fire rod to light the torches. So all he'll have to fight Lanmo is the rest of his magic bar, which if he farms the magic pot, he'll have all but 1 tick. He could do it in 1 cycle and not need to do anything else. But if he misses any of his rod shots, he'll have to back it up with bombs. Whereas Gammachuu has the lamp and the sword, so of course he could just kill Lambos with the sword. Fire Rod being in Sahasrarla's closet means that Gamma will have to do an Ice Rod fight. And that might be a little harder, a little slower, but at least he'll have the sword to back it up. Bread-kun has to be careful. Again, you know, having some time throwing these bombs around getting hit. But it does set up a nice death warp if he chooses to. So let's see, dash into a cannonball, death warp out. Gammachuu gets Chicken Hut 1st try. It's not the easiest thing, but you know, he practices every day, so. Not much to say about this. They're doing the same checks in Desert. Slightly different equipment for the boss, but the one advantage Gamma has is he can check the tablet, and Bread-kun cannot. Gamma also has a magic potion, I'm pretty sure. I think one of his bottles has a green in it, so he could do an Ice Rod Landmo fight and miss rod shots and drink the green potion. He needs to pick up a bomb for Gina's Cave, but I think there's 3 bombs in the big chest. Bread-kun just choosing not to do Landmo at all. I understand this. I wasn't counting items, but I'm pretty sure they just found both of them. I see a big key here. Let me see. Oh, no, I think maybe there is an item. Oh, there was a 50 on torch. Okay, so yeah, we found both items. There's no reason for Bread to be aggressive on fighting Landmo here. I mean, it could be a little faster to do it while he's here, but He also has a pretty high risk of running out of resources to fight the boss with, or dying on the 3 hearts that he has, so I understand putting it off until later. I think Gamma might actually fight the boss here. It's a little less risky for him, and walking back to Landmo if you don't have any mobility items can be a bit of a chore and a time cost. Glitch players have gotten really good at doing Mini Molorm Cave. It's something we often have to do without any items. I mean, maybe it's non-glitch players too, I'm not sure. It is a Sphere 1 location in all modes, but something, yeah, King of Samaria showed up. Of course, that means Turtle Rock will be a pendant. It also might mean that Turtle Rock has the Moon Pearl. It's one of the two. Maybe both. Gamma doesn't know how to do Agina's Cave? No! The optimal way to do 45 to Agina is to clip through the slope and then hold up left, and then quick hop off the ledge and then walk up. You get a really big hop that puts you right below Agina's Cave. Brad finds a sword in the Hobo Check. So there are 2 swords in Sphere 1. Oh no, Brad learning the hard way that you don't do the bonk when you have flippers. It's not the end of the world. You just get back on the pit state. I think he thought that you have to actually fall in the pit to get out of that state, but you actually just need to get near the pit. Okay, there's a bow on the island. I think technically that's a dupable bow, but it's either difficult to do or it doesn't work at all. Overworld item dupes are done with green and red YBAs. And they're all broken some way or another in both branches, which makes them a little less appealing. There are a couple that I know you can just do reliably in both branches, but in this, I think the floating island might be one of the ones that doesn't work or is unpredictable. It's also difficult even when it does work. It messes up your collision just enough to make it hard to get into the island, because your usual visual cues are offset by like half a tile. When I say branches, there's a few different ways you can roll the randomizer. This is the original, it's not really the original, but it's the VT branch. This is the one that you roll on the website that we've been using since 2018 or so. But there's also the Doors branch and all of its ilk that is done on various. You can roll various ways. There's some standalone clients you can roll on, and there's the Avian Art website that will roll Doors branch seeds, and their development has diverged a little bit to the point where some things behave differently in different modes. Gamma finds Moon Pearl in East Death Mountain, so not particularly exciting. Brad looks like he will be getting his sword soon. Gamma doing a 12-minute Link's House chest. Not the latest Link's House I've seen. One time, I think last week, I saw Tam in Go mode save and quit to Link's house and run past an unopened Link's chest. So, top that, I guess. Yeah, Gamma will finish the major Sphere 1 densities by doing South Shore. This is good because Kane of Samaria is here. It might be a little bit harder for him to get to Saucerless Closet, but I think that bow helps a lot. Because Eastern is available, he might just go there next and get the Fire Rod out of Saucerless Closet. If he didn't have that bow, I would be a little bit more concerned. Brett's getting a little bit slowed down by the flippers. He could actually just, yeah, he did it. He could like tap left and kick in bounds when in that swimming state. If anything can be on the shovel, I mean, literally any of the items they don't have can be on that shovel because Aghanim is in logic with the sword. Both Spear 1 swords and the lamp are here, so like, yeah, they can. Literally any item can be behind that shovel. I think both players are operating on the assumption that if that shovel does lead to something, their opponent will also last location it. I don't think anyone's going to rush it unless they're feeling especially behind. I don't understand how Bread has done so much of the game and still has only 3 hearts. Even Gamma has only 4. This is another stingy light world, but I mean, it was very generous in items and swords, but I guess the price of that is you don't get very many hearts. Once again, I missed what was in Hera Basement Cage. I thought it was like 10 arrows or something. Which is interesting because it means that Hera doesn't have any items in it. We've already seen both. Yeah, Gammachuu has not really put himself in a position to get Hobo. On the other hand, it's not really part of this route. If you have the flippers, you can just do it from a save and quit without doing any special flipping. Just go through the wall and you're in. So I understand Gamma not doing this. Bread will just get the powder first try. But both of them have already been to Kakariko, so it might be a little difficult to get back to that magic bat check. Yeah, exactly. Hobo now is like, it's like King's Tomb. You just do it from a save and quit when you run out of ideas. If you need time to think. Bread getting his bow will also be getting the Moon Pearl here. Assuming he can survive this, for some reason, 3-heart Death Mountain that he's having to do at the 16-minute mark. Oh, Basement Cage is a compass? Okay, so we've had 1 item and 1 non-item. And no keys. So that means there's an item upstairs. And there's also maybe a... we don't know if a small key will be available for swamp unlocking. If there is a small key, we don't know if it's locking the item. What we do know is that Mire is required for Hera. But if they find a hook shot, they can Hera clip. Hera pot, whatever it's called. They'll be doing both. Yeah, as predicted, Gammachuu and Eastern almost certainly getting the Fire Rod from Sahasrah's closet once this is done. A little divergence here. We don't have Bread-kun going into Eastern. I wonder what he's hoping for. He could do it any time. It's very in logic. He has everything he would want for it except the flute, I guess. Maybe he's hoping that a mirror turns up so he can do it with Pod. Okay, we have our pendants. We have Mire, Turtle Rock, and Ice. This is all 3 of the dungeons you want the Cane of Samaria for. Of course, they have the Cane of Samaria. Mire pendant is a fun one because it means that you might have to get a little creative with unlocking Swamp. If you don't want to go into Mire and you don't have the medallion, you might have to actually do like some extra stuff in Hyrule Castle to steal a key. I like this. Bread-kun is 19 minutes into the game and still on 3 hearts, so is going a little bit out of his way to get a heart container. I agree with this. He's already taken half of his health off just from 1 hit from an enemy, so that's why. Like, he's going into Skull Woods with the ability to, you know, do all of it, and yet it's quite a dangerous trip for him. I think even slashing that Ropa was a little dangerous. Could one-shot him. Oh, he's scared, yeah. It's funny because like, he probably didn't need to do any of that. Like, just do the screen normally, he probably wouldn't have gotten hit, but of course being scared is making it more dangerous by changing what he does. Yeah, getting the powder out. He does have some potions, so it's not too bad, but like a red potion only does so much when you have 4 hearts, and Mothula 2-shots you. Yeah, huh. We do need a glove. No, we don't need a glove. We don't need much at all. We probably want a hammer for GT. I don't think either of these players basement clips, so we probably want a hammer for Pod as well. But yeah, this is a very good combination of pendants to have for skipping items. Oh, hammer's in Eastern, nice. So that will just fall in their laps. And Gamma gets his Fire Rod, as predicted. Now has a little bit more reason to go to Dark World. Gamma will also need a sword. If he's that averse to doing the hobo check, he might need to find a different sword. Oh. Bread-kun having to go pretty far out of his way to avoid damage in that room. I think that RNG was set up to, like, most of the time you would just like tank those hits, but on 4 hearts you don't really have that luxury. Catfish is actually a pretty bad check for anyone right now because doing Hookshot Cave without even if you can hover, doing it without the glove is really slow. So it's hard to imagine anyone wanting to rush that at the moment. Gamma went into the Dark World, checked his map, and saved and quit. I wonder what changed his mind. I don't know why I see a lot of people opening Moth this way when they have the Master Sword. The best thing you can do opening Moth with the Master Sword is to face down and spin, but Bread-kun does have a very good fight. I think he did actually get the spin off, but facing up makes it a little more likely that you'll get a poke instead. If you're facing down, you'll get the spin guaranteed, and you'll get a free tempered hit. Okay, he's going to Pod because he found out Pod was a crystal and he has the hammer. That makes sense. I think Bread-kun didn't have that luxury because he didn't have the hammer. So he's doing the other thing that makes sense for him, which is Skullwoods and Thieves Town, both crystals. I would have said both easy, but at the time he made that decision, he still had 3 hearts and green mail, so easy is a strong word. Ooh, wow, barely missing that Ropa there. I almost wonder if Gamma is thinking execution difficulty is a factor for why he's going to Pod instead of Skullwoods and Thieves Town. He does have the ability to do all of those dungeons as well. It's just difficult. He has Fighter Sword too, which matters a little bit more for Skullwoods than it does for Pod. He's likely to be doing most of his damage with the hammer on Helmasaur and not with the sword. Okay, Bread-kun setting up ahead of time for the bomb jump here. Actually kind of looked like he was going to do a door glitch for a second, but of course he's not. It's not that mode. Quake is in Skullwoods, so that's... I don't know. Do you really want medallions in this seed? Probably not. If your go mode is Hookshot and Myers Dependent, I think medallions are the last thing you want to see. Wow, Bread-kun gets his 4th heart piece. That's monumental. Gammachuu is... wow, he's like the king of hookshot. Also, the hookshot is here. I didn't notice that he picked up hookshot until he started using it to save like micro amounts of time in rooms, which is the thing he's known to do. But yeah, hookshot, that's go mode between the two of them. In fact, I think that's just go mode for Gammachuu. Like, I think he has all the items that he needs. I'm trying to think if there's anything where he like might not be in go mode, but I'm pretty sure. Oh, it's the sword. That's the reason. So if Gamma continues to open chests, it's because he needs a sword. Bread-kun just needs to go to the crystal dungeons. So as lucky as it is that Gamma found hookshot, like Gamma's like Bread's gonna find that too. It's not that hard. He just has to go to Crystal Eastern and then go to Crystal Pod. Doesn't mean that he will, but it is definitely a path that's available to him. Half Magic's nice for a low percent finish. Especially if they're going to be fighting Gamma with Master Sword and no silvers. Okay, we got the bow out. Helma giving some really good RNG for firing 8 arrows into the head. Gamma could have gone for some heroic hammer hits, but it would have been a little dangerous. He could take 1 hit and survive, but he couldn't take more than that. The Gamma is like they're not really like Gamma's a little ahead on crystals, but Bread-kun has more I would say more chance of being in go mode first. I guess it depends on where the swords are. Gamma looks like he took a chance on Helma first because he was in like sword go mode and skipped a bunch of the back of pod, but he's going back in because he knows that he needs a sword for the seed. And the search space for swords is so big that he can't really afford to skip such large areas like the back of pod. If he skips this, he's never coming back. Trying to think of if lacking the hammer and hookshot is going to hurt Bread-kun on this part of the Dark World clear, but I don't think it will. It might matter a little bit if there's like a sword in Thieves Town big chest, but he doesn't need it. It would just be nice to have. Bread has a lot of chances though to spend time clearing overworld that it wouldn't be necessary. It depends on the swords, of course. Gamma might also clear that overworld. So what really, if we're rooting for Bread, we don't want Bread to find any swords on this path because Bread wants Gamma to also do these checks. I have a feeling though that Gamma might not do as much of the overworld as Bread will do because Gamma's go mode is a little more flexible. He might not even do like Thieves and Skull right away just because it comes with a lot of overworld baggage. And he could just go to GT and maybe find a sword there instead. Let's see what he does. Looks like Tower of Hera first. Yeah, with that hook shot in hand. Got one of the things that doing this early does for him is it gives him the knowledge of whether he has a key for Swamp or not. If he doesn't have a key for Swamp, he will have to either go into Mire when he's in that Dark World loop, or set up a key rat steal in the castle, which is quite slow. I think it is in Gamma's best interest to do this first, so that he knows that he doesn't have to go into Mire when he gets there. And he doesn't. He has the key. Oh, silver arrows. That is an interesting thing because, okay, I think Gammachuu will find those because he is on his way to the Dark World. He's not going to GT. But if he had gone to GT and found a sword there, he would have missed those silvers. If there is a sword truly on path for Gamma, that is very good for Gamma, but it also means that it will be on path for Bread. And I don't know, some of that could be negated by the fact that Bread and Gamma will both have silver arrows, so the sword won't make as much of a difference, but I think Bread does want the tempered sword for this, and yeah, I don't know. I think it's a little better for Bread if the sword is hard to find, but it's not the end of the world if it is available. This, though, Bread going into Mire might be a problem. Now, it makes sense for him to do this here because he has to do something about Swamp Palace. I think he's really just here because of Swamp. But this is a part of the world that Gamma will almost certainly not go in here unless the sword is really hard to find. Interesting to see Gamma is going into Thieves first. I think the reason for that is that Gamma does not want to have anything to do with the South Dark World until he's done with his Crystal Dungeons. This means that Gamma might actually miss the silver arrows. Because I understand the reasoning behind this. He wants to do Thieves first and then finish the route in Skullwoods. And then save and quit and probably do like Turtle Rock or something like that, or Swamp. Whereas if he had done Skullwoods first, after Thieves Town, he would have to decide whether he wants to go south or not. Plus, it would be a little slower. He'd have to walk out of Skullwoods and then do Thieves. Alright, what's Bread finding in Mire? He's found 2 small keys so far. Small keys are really what he's here for, but also he's not in go mode. He needs to go to Eastern and Pod to find Hookshot and Hammer. There's an item for Bread. Is he gonna go straight? Did Bread find both items or just one? Because it looks like he might be just going straight into Swamp from here. Maybe he doesn't want to actually full clear the Pendant Mire. No, he's doing okay. He's doing the torches. All right, that's an interesting choice. Because he doesn't even know that this is an item. And if it's the big key, he doesn't necessarily need the big key. Okay, it is the item. At least he won't spend too much time in here. Yeah, I wonder if he's thinking Hera Unlock, but the thing with Hera Unlock is it's really only relevant in seeds where you where either hookshot is in Swamp Palace or Swamp is a pendant and you don't need the hookshot at all. Because he can go into Hera and he can... Yeah, maybe he wants to open the Hera big chest while he's there, not necessarily the big key door. Because you can just open every chest in Hera and see if there even is an item upstairs. If the hookshot is upstairs in Hera, then you'll just get the hookshot on this trip and not need to unlock the door. But you do need the Meyer big key to do that, so he has picked that up. One small benefit of having done the torches is Bread-kun does get to use the bomb clip in that room. If you don't move the torches, you have to do left side like dash clip. Yeah, I think Bread is doing the thing I suggested, which is just get all the stuff in the top of Hera to make sure hookshot's not there, and then unlock Swamp. There is a little bit of a risk. He's going to eat the small key of Hera. And if the second item of Hera is behind the small key, he would have to either just write it off completely or go downstairs and unlock it. What in the world just happened there? That is quite the distance to go flying. I think what happened is he got damage boosted through one of the beetles. Oh, there's a glove here. Gamma doesn't have that glove. That's pretty funny because the glove's not required, but it can be nice for routing. It could also have an impact on Gamma in the sense that if there's like a sword in back of escape, for example, Gamma could miss out on that. It won't matter for Bread unless Bread might follow into back of escape, but you know, Bread can afford to miss that because we know where his go mode items are. But we don't know where Gamma's swords are other than the hobo sword that people are in chat are telling me that Gamma probably just won't get. Oh, that is true. That Gamma will have to go into that room to unlock Swamp Palace. And he might pick up the big chest on the way. If he is still, in fact, in sword go mode and hasn't found the sword yet. If he's found the sword, then it doesn't really matter. I don't think there's anything the glove does. It makes it a little bit harder for Gamma to do a South Dark World loop. So if there is, for example, a sword in Hype Cave, it might take a little longer for Gamma to get to it if he doesn't have a glove. So Bread-kun has Hype Cave, and then he has a choice. He can go left or he can go up. Left will take him to the Stumpy check that he missed, and up will take him to Pyramid Ferry. So let's see, is there a free sword for Gamma in Hype Cave? 100. Yeah, no, nothing worth mentioning in Hype Cave. So yeah, is opening swamp chests in out of dungeon state dangerous? It is mildly unsafe. It's not like terrible. I don't know. I think you should just open the chests. It's very safe if you had the hookshot and got the big chest on the way out with Specky Clip. But if you didn't, then you have a small risk of picking up the big key of Swamp on the way out and eating it, and then not having a good way to get back to the big chest without going through another dungeon. You're not locking yourself out of the dungeon completely, you're just making it pretty certain that that will be your last location. Okay, Bread-kun is on the right path now. He is going to Eastern Palace. Now you say that, holy smoke, I got a little anecdata for you because I had my game 3 with someone last week, and both of us went through Swamp to unlock it from Meyer, and I opened the chest on the way out and he didn't, and the hookshot was in the first chest. So yes, while there is a risk that you might eat the big key, There's also a risk that by not opening the chest, you might not get an item that was there. So you have to calculate the risk-reward potential of, first of all, do I even care? Like, if there's an item on the big chest and I'm not opening the chest on the way out, like, am I going to get that big chest anytime soon anyway? Do I have a plan to return to Swamp in a reasonable amount of time to get that big chest? Or is that just going to be last location anyway? And then the second is, how many different items are there left in the game that I could find in the first 2 chests on the way out that would help me in the race? And like in my case, I was looking for swords because I was still on, I don't know, Fighter Sword or Master Sword or something like that. It was looking a little dire. I was about to go into ice, and it's like, okay, even if I don't find anything good here, like a sword could be here. You could also find the small key, and that could give you some information about the logic that you would otherwise miss out on. So I don't know. I personally recommend getting the chest on the way out basically all the time in a 1v1 race. Maybe in like a qualifier, play a little more safe. So Gamma is doing Swamp now. He's actually doing Swamp. So like Bread was just unlocking as part of his Darkworld loop. He did. It looks like he decided not to do anything after Hype Cave. He just decided to go to Crystal Dungeons, which for him is the correct play. It does make it hard for Stumpy. Like if something was on Stumpy, it would be a big problem for him. He would probably never get back there. But we know that at least the hammer and hookshot aren't there. Yeah, Gamma is very ahead on crystals, but Bread-kun is about to be in go mode if he does pod next. It really all depends on where the swords are. If the swords are on path for Gammachuu, then he's very far in the lead. But if the swords are not on path, then Gamma will have to give back some of that lead looking for the swords. And yeah, it's true that he's going to be silverless until he does South Darkworld, and he will be pretty underpowered for all of these dungeons that he's doing. Whereas at least Bread will have silvers and Master Sword. Gamma will be on Fighter Sword the whole time. This is the last dungeon Gammachuu can do before GT. There's a pretty decent chance a sword will be in GT for him. And if it is, he's probably in the lead. But if the sword is not in GT, then who knows? We've already seen Bread-kun do a whole bunch of South Darkworld and not find a sword, so if Gamma does that next, he'll lose all of that time. Desert Palace is empty. He can do it. It's not priority. I think he's hoping that maybe a mirror shows up and he'll do it while he's doing South Darkworld clears. Or, you know, he's done with all of his crystals. He'll just walk there if he has to. But there's no benefit to Gamma doing Desert right now. It doesn't give him anything. So Bread-kun is on path to go mode. He has to do Helmosaur, he has to get his hook shot. He will probably be skipping the back of pod because we saw Gamma do the front of pod, find hookshot and big key into Helmosaur. Bread will be able to do that too and not have to do the back of pod because he will be in go mode. Bread will then have to do Swamp Palace. And by that point, he will be caught up with Gammachuu. And Gammachuu will be probably in GT, and then it will depend a lot on whether, for example, the big key in GT is available early, and whether a sword is in GT. If there's no sword in GT, then Gamma could lose all of that time to Bread. Now, if there is also a GT big key that's hard to find in GT, then Bread will lose that time looking for the GT big key, so it won't cost Gamma as much to go in there. So there's Bread's big key. I think I remember the hookshot must be in this chest here in Swamp Palace. Sorry, in the Bowlock side. I said Swamp Palace. I was thinking of Gammachoo's situation here. He is actually he was in the fake Dark World when he did Swamp because he never entered the Dark World to begin with. And he's taking advantage of that by exiting and then walking to desert from there, which is, you know, it saves a little time over an extra save and quit. This will also give him the opportunity to check Checkerboard Cave, which we haven't seen yet. But, you know, it's a big ticking clock for Gamma because Bread-kun is in go mode, and Bread-kun will be probably doing Swamp and Desert next, and then GT. And as I mentioned earlier, it's going to depend a lot on what Gamma finds in GT and what he doesn't find there. There's also a chance that, I don't know, Gamma just decides to go to Hobo, but it's not really looking like I wouldn't recommend he does that. I think he should go to GT. And I think the odds are pretty good that there's a sword there. Nice. I love to see a key dash in pod. The pod key dash is a visual cue. Some people will just YOLO it and then bonk most of the time, but there's also a visual cue. You can use your lamp cone to see if you're on grid or not. Of course, Bread has the silver arrows, so it's a much safer fight for him, despite still being on green mail and 3 hearts, just like Gamma was. Okay, so here's Gamma. He's not wrapping the screen, so where's he going? This could still be GT. Could just be that he, yeah, I think he's going to GT. He might not have, like, realized where he was going at the moment. I think it looked like maybe he was considering checking the tablet, but the tablet doesn't... No, he would have already checked it. The tablet has powder on it. He knows that. He can't get it because he doesn't have the sword. It's kind of funny that I was talking earlier about, like, hey, you know that there's a powder there. Maybe you want to wait until you find a sword before you go to Kakariko so that you can check Magic Bat. And that would have helped Gamma, I think, because he would have found the Hobo sword before going to Kakariko and actually not been in sword go mode. But also, he might have done a lot more of the overworld than he needed to. If there was just a sword in GT, then being in sword go mode's not really hurting him because he's been doing a bunch of crystal dungeons and not a whole lot else. Maybe, but it's the same. Like, it's the same setup. Okay, so we have a GT big key in Stalfos room. That's really good for Bread-kun, because now Bread will just go there and have a very fast GT basement. He can get, even if there is a sword here, he can get some time back. But I think if there's a sword here, it's going to be really hard for him to catch up because he's 2 dungeons behind. Whereas all Gamma has to do is climb GT and finish the game. So it really comes down to that. If there's no sword here, then Bread-kun has a chance. But if there's a sword anywhere in GT, I think Gammachuu might take this. Now, I'm kind of hoping there is, because this has a potential to be like a sub-hour seed if Gamma finds a sword here. If he finds 2 swords, it could be even faster. Not quite sub 50, but definitely doable for him. Now, another thing Gamma could have done, if he was feeling really bold, is he could have just climbed and hope the sword was upstairs. The downside of that is, you know, there's only 4 checks upstairs. He has to do a fighter sword climb if he's doing that, and then he has to go back in. He's probably feeling pretty far ahead, to the point where he doesn't feel like he needs to make that play, that he can afford to do GT basement and not throw away time having to reclimb GT and so on. Like if he does the climb, the odds of him finding a sword up there are pretty low. And the reward is high if he does, but if he doesn't find a sword there, which is pretty likely, he'll have to do GT clip again. And then he won't have that nice path to Ganon of, like, you know, getting fluted there by Gammachuu. He'll have to walk there, so that's double time loss. I agree with doing the basement here, at least do it in the left side. I kind of understand not doing the right side. He is rewarded. There is a sword here. He will have to walk out because he doesn't have a mirror, but otherwise he has a pretty solid lead and is on pace to get a sub-hour in this heat, even with Master Sword Silverless. It is what, like, I don't know the numbers, but I'm pretty sure he can beat the game in the next 10 minutes. And yeah, it's, I guess, worth mentioning the bottles because of the low percent that Gamma is on. He actually has a lot in terms of safety here. He has blue mail and half magic, so he doesn't need any of those bottles, but he could save a little time, at least using more of the fire rod in phase 2. I don't know. I think he doesn't need the bottles at all, but it could at least give him some safety if things go haywire in the Ganon fight. If he had the cape, he could abuse the cape and get a faster phase 2, but he doesn't have the cape, so probably won't be able to save time that way. Oh yeah, Gamma will do some Aria strats. That's a good point. I always forget that exists. I never bothered to learn it. Looks like Bread will do the same path that Gamma took, which is to take the fake Dark World and walk the desert and clean that up. But Bread is quite a bit behind now. Between having to do desert and having to get the GT big key, Gamma's already halfway up the tower, and the Silverless phase 4 Ganon's probably not going to be enough to give Bread a chance to catch up unless something really bad happens to Gammachuu here. Yeah, Gamma, like, if you're wondering how Gamma is so far ahead, he basically just didn't do any of the Dark World. He found Hammer in Eastern, and then on his way to the Dark World, he checked his map, saw that Pod was a crystal, and saved and quit and went there instead, because he did not want to have to do all of this overworld. He just wanted to do crystal dungeons, and he found the hookshot there and was in sword go mode for the remainder of his crystal dungeons, and there was a sword in GT, so he didn't have to do any of the overworld. He missed out on the hobo sword that Bread picked up earlier, but that was not enough for Bread to catch up because Bread had spent too much time in the Dark World not having the hammer and hookshot and Pod in Eastern. And he also did a dive into Misery Mire to unlock Swamp, which made sense for him because he didn't know if a Hera small key would be available, but Gamma did know that, so Gamma didn't have to do that. Gamma doing some checks for silver arrows. He actually only has 3 arrows, so if he found silvers here, he would have to pick up a pot in that room that he was just in. If silvers are in post-Moldorm chests, he can only use 3 of them, but it'll still save a significant amount of time if he were to find them. A sword is just as likely to show up for him. Well, from his perspective, he's more likely to find a sword than silvers because there's 2 left. We know where the silvers are, so we know he's not going to find them, but we don't know where that 4th sword is. Where's Bread going? He needs his crystal. Bread killed Moldorm in Meyer state, and it dropped the Meyer pendant, which he didn't pick up because he doesn't need the Meyer pendant. But it does mean that he needs to go back up to Tower of Hera just to collect the Hera crystal, which is waiting for him in this arena. This is something you see a lot more in No Logic, where we're often doing dungeons in the wrong dungeon state and sometimes in cave state. In HMG, Misery Mire is the only dungeon where you can really do that. You can kill the bosses of Hera and Swamp in Mire state and collect the pendant, but you still have to go back to the boss if it drops a crystal to pick up the crystal, which is why you don't really see people like Mire stating Swamp so often. You'll only do that if you're like Swamp and Mire are both pendants, and you don't care what dungeon state you're in, you're just looking for items. You might do it if like Mire is green pendant and Vitreous doesn't have a crystal, or Vitreous doesn't have an item. You can maybe get the crystal or the pendant a little faster if you do it from Moldorm than from Vitreous. That's out of logic and pretty niche. Like, it's... I don't know, it would be pretty hype if someone did that in the tournament and it paid off, but it's... I can't even remember the last time it would have paid off in any race that I've been in or seen. Gamma might want to drink a red potion here, yeah, so... Having those potions does allow him to be a little more aggressive in the fight. And he does get through phase 1 and 2 very quickly as a result. Bread-kun gets his big key and has to walk out because doesn't have the mirror. Doesn't have a good way to get out of here. Now he has to climb GT with the Master Sword, which is the same thing Gamma had to do, but at least he has silver, so he can do things like kill the red Zalzax a little faster. But of course Gamma's in the Ganon fight now, so it's, unless he has a hard time doing phase 4, then Gamma will almost certainly take this race and probably get a sub-hour. So Gamma is past the hard part of the fight, has gotten Torch Glitch, just has to do an extended Silverless Ganon with half magic and a green potion in his pocket. I don't expect that to be a problem. Of course anything can happen, but it's not likely to cost him the race, let alone the sub-hour. Or the other way around. How do you not fall after a spin? You just hold away from the pit. That is a very solid sub-hour time for Gamma. We've had a few of these in the tournament. People have gotten really good at the game. Every year I collect the finishing times, the winner times, and every year it goes down. I expect that to be the same this year as well. So that's a forfeit from Bread-kun. And we will be getting an interview from at least Gammachuu in a minute. But we'll reflect on how quick this race was. Also worth noting that like Bread-kun was also on pace for a really fast finish time here. Like he is in land mode 2 at the 57 mark. It wouldn't have been a sub hour, but it would have been like a sub 105 for sure, especially with the silvers. And we are joined by Gammachuu. GG, congrats on the sub hour finish. And GG Bread-kun as well.
Yo, GG's Bread.
Yeah, I tried to just greed him. I'm like, I'm gonna duel Darkworld anyway. I'm just gonna try to greed a mirror so that we can just do pod EP together. That was basically it. It was like, I've got stuff to do. I can just maybe spike a mirror and I can just save some time, greed it together.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And I guess on that point, as you were waiting for that, when I went to the Dark World, I was gonna do like a loop, Skullwoods and Thieves Town, but then I saw Pod was a crystal. I'm like, well, I can't really combo that with Eastern anymore, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do that first. And then I started thinking as I'm going in Pod, like, what do I need for Go mode? And then I'm like, oh, just hookshot and sword? That's it. And then I get the hookshot of the first item in Pod. I'm like, oh no, it's not one of these seeds, man. I don't want to be.
I had Master Sword before Dark World. If I would have done the same route, I would have just been in Go mode, walking out of Pod, be like, well, no Dark World for me today.
Where was their sword at?
Hobo.
Oh Hobo my gosh! That's so gross.
No, I know, Brad. You were saying in the race room that when you saw the hookshot, you knew you had lost. I didn't know you had lost yet. We didn't know where Gamma's third sword was going to be. We knew he wasn't going to get the hobo sword. So we didn't know Gamma was ahead. We didn't know Gamma was ahead until after he found the GT big key and kept going and found a sword on Ice Armos. So don't write yourself off, Brad. You were actually in the lead for a while.
Oh yeah.
So I knew that hobo sword was not going to be in Gamma's hands. I knew that 100%. I just knew that, and so I was like, okay, Gamma's going to be in a sword go mode.
Oh my god!
I gotta pray there's not a sword in GT. That is my saving grace.
Well, I have to say, Brad, you are like pretty good at reading the situation, because you did know that was the thing that would cost you the race if it did. And if that sword hadn't been in GT, you had done so much of the South Dark World that I'm pretty sure Gamma would have done after doing GT. Feel free to correct me if you're wrong, but I'm assuming Hype Cave and South Dark World were probably on your mind.
Yeah.
We knew that wasn't going to be a sword for you, so and that would have been enough for Bread to take a lead. So it really did just come down to that.
Oh my gosh! I can't believe Hobo had a sword. There was absolutely no way I was doing that. Not with the whole world open. Like, yeah, it's a quick check. It's not the worst, but I don't know. It's like, I find reason to find something else. Like, seems better. I mean, going over here is more dense. I don't really want to take my time to do this right now. Like, this can wait. And who would have thought there was a sword just chilling there? It was Hobo. But yeah, I mean, that sword was just driving me nuts. I skipped a few things, like checkerboard that was kind of on the way. What is it, Bombable Hut. I'm like, I just kind of got to get bet on GT. I almost even did East Dark Dust Mountain before GT. I'm like, no, I mean, it could just be right here. Like, let's just go to GT, whatever.
And you got to do GT anyway. It's dense as hell. You can there's a decent likelihood a sword is there.
Yeah. So I'm glad I was there and I didn't have to look anywhere else. I did open the top chest just in case. You did find silvers. Where were those?
Dig Game had one.
Oh, Dig Game. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, did you?
Because I looped all dark.
Oh, you did.
So I did. So before I went to Eastern, I did Dark World. I looped from Skullwoods down. Went into Mire, got both items out of Mire, clipped down to Hera, killed the boss to check the item, got the glove, clicked swamp, unlocked all swamp, so I could run out of swamp and run to Hype Cave afterwards, because I was still in Dark World state.
Oh, okay. Oh man, you just don't expect that much in the light world. Like a hammer just sitting right there in Eastern. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's free.
because I had the ability to do Eastern. It's just like, I mean, I was banking on there's probably not a progression item in Eastern with how many items I have available, so I could afford to just put it off potentially, and then, oh hey, I find a mirror. I can just do pod. I can clip into pod, do Eastern, and maybe I have a hammer by that point. I can just do them together, and I can just do things really quick. I was just banking that one of the required items is just going to be in Dark World in that loop.
I mean, that's fair too. Like, I had no idea what the Dark World pendants were going to be, which is why I didn't even go to pod at first. Like, that could be a pendant. There's 3 pendants in the Dark World, and they're like the best case scenario to make it a quick seed. So,
yeah, the 3 locked dungeons are like the pain dungeons to do.
Yeah,
to find stuff for.
Yeah, I was even gonna do like Dark Dust Mountain. That was kind of like my thought. Like, I even have the TR equipment here, and with hammer, I could kill Trinax. But it's just everything felt kind of open. Yeah, it's just.
Oh yeah, especially for you with Sword Go mode, you have the literal entire Dark World available to you. Like, yeah, where do you go?
Yeah.
Do your dungeons and pray.
Yep, that was the idea here.
I think it's really funny, by the way, that the only thing that anybody used the Cane of Samaria for was Gamma fighting Ganon. So I don't think it was used for anything else.
No, yeah, I didn't use it at all. GT Big Q was on left side too, so yeah, that wasn't needed at all. Wow. Imagine doing South Shore. I think that's where Samaria was.
Yeah, earlier I was like, oh, good thing you're going to South Shore because Samaria's here. And I didn't know how irrelevant that would be. Not even for Ice Palace, which is like just a nice to have, but a really nice to have.
Yeah. That glow was funny in Hera. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool.
You almost wasted time doing Checkerboard Cave with that, but actually it didn't cost you any time to have that glove.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't use it at all, I guess. So I was just banking on GT. Like, that's the density there. Cool game though. Wow, this is definitely my fastest HMG or seed ever for any mode.
This is a turbojet seed, yeah.
Yeah. The dream layout here. I was fully expecting swamp, maybe a pendant. I know you can hover, but that was not the case. So
I know you can Moldorm bounce Gamma. You're fine.
I've
seen you do it.
So I would prefer to avoid doing that, but that is something I could do. So I'm glad the hook shot was just super free.
Yeah, I mean, I figured once I was in hammer and hook, go. I didn't even bother going for any hovers. Like, I'm probably not going to find the hammer there. I'm probably going to find hammer for a hook shot. Whatever. I'm not going to bother going for any of those checks. It's probably not worth it.
Despite hammer being free, like this, we were speculating if this is also going to be a basement clip seed, but turns out, GT has a lot of hammerlock checks in it, and sometimes the game just says no fun allowed. And gives you the hammer and also locks the GT big key in the right side, so like, left side. Yeah. So yeah, that's that was out of the cards. I don't think either of you does basement clip, right?
Oh no, I
haven't bothered to learn it.
Stop late. It's not actually that hard. If you have the cane and the lamp, it's pretty easy. Think of it as doing like 5 dash citruses in a row.
Oh gosh.
Like, it's not like each individual step is not that hard to do. You just have to do all of them correctly in a row.
Yeah. Well, I'm crossing my fingers I don't come across that. I've seen that there's been a couple of hammerless seeds potential. I have not had that yet.
It really mostly comes down to GT because usually the big key is locked by hammer. There's just so many chests over there.
But sometimes the bow is the thing you get to skip, and also sometimes people like just get to single dip pod because they're that good at basement clip. Speaking of which, I mean, the winner of this race gets to play the winner of Krithel versus Skelly. So if you can't basement clip, you might want to be rooting for Skelly in that series. Now, I don't know if Skelly can basement clip, but I know that Krithel is the first person to do it in a tournament race and is very good at it and willing to pull it out in situations that are just there to save time. So yeah, maybe you do want to pick up basement clip before the series ends. We'll see how that goes. Those races will probably not be done for a while. This series doesn't really need to be done right now just because the loser will be waiting for an opponent for quite a while as the loser's bracket catches up. But yeah, any final words from Bread and Gamma before we cut this one off?
No, not really.
Yeah, just thank you for putting up the restream, and yeah, GG's to you, Brad. I look forward for another,
GG's.
hopefully not this super jetsy like this, something more normal-ish. Yeah, thank you, Melma, for doing comms, and Phoenix for tracking.
Thanks for watching, everybody.